Shua Tov, everyone. Welcome to the first story in our audio series. This is a wonderful story in and of itself, and it also has a nice connection to the Saturday night that we're in the early part of the month of Iyar. That Iyar is considered the month of healing, based on the name of the month, Iyar, which in Hebrew is spelled Aleph, Yud Yud, Resh, which stands for, where Yud Yud is a common abbreviation for the four-letter name. So put it all together, and we have Aleph Yud Yud Resh, Ani Hashem Rofecha. Ani, I, God, am your healer. Also, Saturday night is a time when we resume our requests in prayer. On Shabbos, there's no requesting anything, and Saturday night we resume our requests, including for the coming of Mashiach. Eliyahu Hanavi, the one who was supposed to precede the arrival of Mashiach, is an important character and many customs on Saturday night, and we'll see Mashiach plays a big role in this story also, and in a way that most of you are probably not accustomed to thinking about it. This story features Rabbi Yoshua of Belz. He was born in 5654, which is 1825, and we'll see about when he passed away in this story. The first Rebbe of Belz was Rabbi Sar Shalom, and Rabbi Yeshua was his son, his fifth son and successor. He was a major leader of Galician Jewry, and he was the founder of Machzikei Hadas, perhaps the first Orthodox Jewish organization to be involved in government politics that is still a force in Israel today, as well as the force behind the Belzer Hechsher of food products. He was eventually succeeded by his second son, Yisachar Dov, who is the grandfather of the present Belzer Rebbe, who bears his name. Anyway, in 1854, Rabbi Yoshua Rokeach, the Belzer Rebbe, suffered from a succession of mysterious ailments. Although he was in much pain, he maintained a cheerful countenance. His Chassidim, however, were greatly worried, not just because of the illnesses themselves, for they were all curable, but because of certain disturbing hints from the Rebbe that his end was near. The next time the Rebbe's condition worsened, they decided to spare no expense and bring him to Vienna. There they took him to the finest medical facility in Europe to be examined by top specialists. The doctors announced their diagnosis. An immediate and risky operation was urgently necessary. The Belzer Rebbe made his preparations. He immersed in the mikveh, he wrote his will, and he recited with great emotion the words of the final confession. Only then, in an exalted spirit, did he allow himself to be placed on the operating table. The surgical team assembled around the Rebbe. All awaited the chief surgeon's signal to the anesthetist to begin his procedure. The surgical team assembled around the Rebbe. All awaited the chief surgeon's signal to the anesthetist to begin his procedure. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, the Rebbe called out to one of the surgeons, and after confirming his first name, he said, "Moses, you're a Jew, aren't you?" The doctor quietly nodded his head. Moses, whose given name was actually Moshe Yitzhak, was from a small town called Linden. There he had grown up in a traditional Jewish home. His father tried his best to provide him with a strong Jewish education, but alas, the boy's heart was drawn in a completely different direction. As his head filled with visions of more cosmopolitan, attractive vistas, he grew further and further from the values of his nurturing home. As soon as he was of age, he left Linden and his distraught parents and headed for the great metropolis of Vienna. The first step he took in his new life was to change his name to Moses. Next, he enrolled in a secular school, where thanks to his brilliant mind and determined diligence, he caught up and surpassed others his age by absorbing an extraordinarily large amount of material in a relatively short period of time. Armed with his degree, he was accepted to the medical school of the university, and there too he was highly successful. Soon after, he became established as a first-class physician and surgeon. Unfortunately, the more he succeeded, the further he drifted from his Jewish roots. No longer could anyone recognize that the sophisticated Dr. Moses was the small-town Moshe Yitzhak of Linden. Although Moses' nod of affirmation of his Jewish identity was small and unobtrusive, it was noticed by everyone in the room. There was absolute silence when the Rebbe continued, "Moses, do you believe that God Almighty created the world and conducts it?" After a short hesitation, the perplexed Moses answered, "Yes, Rabbi, I do." The medical staff looked on in astonishment, but the Rebbe seemed oblivious to their stares, as all his attention was focused on the doctor. And what about Mashiach, the righteous one, who will come at any moment and redeem our people from the exile? Do you believe that, Moses? This time Moses was silent longer. He selected his words carefully. I believe there will come a certain time when there will be a redemption, but I don't believe it will come about through a Messiah, a single person, who will rule over the whole world and everyone will be in awe and fear of him. Such a thing is not within the realm of rational possibility, so I can't accept it. The Belzer lifted his head and turned to face Moses directly. He opened wide his powerful eyes, two bright shining orbs radiating kindness and goodness, but also power and authority. The Rebbe's penetrating gaze fastened on Moses. He felt it burning into him. He tried to avert his own eyes, but was unable. It was as if they were magnetically attached to those of the Rebbe. The stunned members of the medical team saw their comrade's face turn deathly pale, then blush bright as a beet, then white again, and then red again. His whole body was trembling and his hands began to shake. They had no idea what to think of this unexpected, bizarre interaction, but they realized Moses must be undergoing some sort of spiritual or emotional trauma. The tension was palpable. Moses was panting and breathing with difficulty, as if he had just completed a long-distance run. He tried his best to calm himself and relax, but found himself unable to. The simple fact that someone had asserted control over him with just a glance kept him in internal turmoil. Finally, the Rebbe averted his eyes from Moses. The surgeon felt his composure return. Then the Rebbe looked at him again and studied his face, but this time his gaze was caressing. "Nu, Moses, now do you believe that an individual is capable of arousing fear in all those around him with just a glance of the eyes?" Moses nodded in silent admission. "Well, Moses, that is exactly how it will be when Mashiach arrives. God's chosen one will rule over the entire world, and everyone will abandon his evil ways and turn towards God." "The Rebbe's right, I was mistaken," muttered the shaken physician. The drama over, the operation was ready to take place. Afterwards, it was pronounced a great success, and thousands of Hasidim breathed sighs of relief. 15 days later, the Belzer Rebbe was discharged. He boarded the train to return to Belz from Vienna. To the deep sorrow of his followers, however, he never arrived, but went to his eternal reward during the course of the journey on the 23rd of Shvat at age 59. Among those that merited to be in the small group of disciples present at the moment that passed away was his devoted chassid, Moshe Yitzhak of Linden.